Welcome back. Today we're talking the Real Housewives of New Jersey. I know it's been a minute since the last time I was on my YouTube. I used to come live like every couple of days and keep you guys posted on New Jersey content. And I'm going to make it a little bit more of a priority to start bringing you guys some more updated information on all the housewives on YouTube. And I'm going to start today by getting everyone up to speed. Before I do that, though, just so you guys know, you can check out my Instagram at HW Historian with the number two, and you can also check it out on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. They pretty much have a lot of my stuff posted and up to speed. So, of course, everything in this video is alleged, and let's get into this. First of all, we're going to be talking about the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Teresa Giudice's current husband, Louis Ellis, who is in the headlines, for sure in the headlines. Lately, if anything. We know that Teresa and Louis currently are on vacation in Europe for the next couple of weeks. However, before they left for vacation, they did a podcast episode for Teresa's new podcast. They posted it shortly after the Real Housewives of New Jersey finale aired, and they're getting tons of backlash that I don't think they expected to get from the podcast episode. And if you guys have not been online and seen the headlines, page six, reality blurb, all of the major press outlets have picked up this clip that they have since deleted on their podcast, and it is the clip of Louis Ellis discussing the family vacation they took last year to Greece and his thoughts of encouraging the four daughters of Teresa Giudice to wear tongs and short skirts and to show it off and to do, what he didn't do. And we understand, hey, Alan, hey, Candy. We understand, obviously, the point, what he was trying to make was saying, we think his point was, live, do it all, live it up, be free when you're young while you can. But in reality, we're talking about girls that aren't even 21 years old yet. I think Gia was 24 at the time. She had just graduated college, and we had Melania who just graduated high school. One of them, I think, was 13 at the time. And if you remember, Kim D was actually on David Yontov's podcast where she discussed her thoughts on one of the girls dancing on a table in Greece. While they were there, but I think more explicitly because of the fact that he is a male and he is commenting on these young women, and he tells Teresa that the girls are very proper and very what was the word that he used? I don't know if he used the word proper, but it was almost, I don't know. It was just very peculiar. It was very uncomfortable. Every comment that I have seen across all social media platforms has been not very many defending him. It's a lot of people saying, like, this is not healthy, this is uncomfortable, this is not appropriate. A lot of those sort of verbiage when it comes to people discussing the clip. If you guys don't know what specific clip I'm talking about, you can go to my Instagram, you can go to my TikTok, HW Historian with a number two. It's going to show you a clip of Louis Ellis on Teresa's podcast this week. Like I said, it's made all major press outlets. Page six, Reality Blurb. Shout out to Reality Blurb for they used one of my videos from Instagram of Louis, and so I love that. But yeah, what do you guys think about this? I have to obviously be very sensitive because we're on YouTube, a different platform, so I can't get into like the explicit, but pretty much everyone just saying this is uncomfortable. This wasn't a conversation that he should be having about his stepdaughters. I mean, you guys have to remember they were only married for like a year at the time. I mean, these girls as boyfriends that they have, they've known longer than their stepdad, if we're being honest. Like when I was in my early 20s, and I said this whenever Louis Ellis was getting criticism for his one-on-one dates that he has with the girls, um, which people were, expressing sort of concern then as well. And we only knew that was transpiring after production on Teresa's podcast went in and did like a Q&A session with her. The producer did, and in that Q&A session he releases the info that he spent the night at Teresa and Louis' home and how wonderful Louis was, and that Louis takes his stepdaughters out for one-on-one dates, date nights, one-on-one time with each other. And people were saying they didn't think that jived, if you will. They didn't really like that idea. And I remember being a really, really young in my late teens and early 20s. And I don't know why, but it's sometimes grown men are a little bit intimidating. It's a little uncomfortable at times. So I just can't imagine these girls and everything that's going on in the press, not to mention. So after that happens and the producer, comes out and says that, a couple of weeks later, we get the finale. We get Louis wishing, harm on Margaret Joseph's son, which, yes, he's not a child. However, we do know that the Real Housewives of New Jersey has always done a great job of keeping people, keeping people's kids out of it. They've always tried to do that. Let's leave the kids out of it. And now we have Louis saying, like, I wish, harm on Margaret Joseph's son or ill on him, if you will. And Teresa didn't say anything. And people are saying that that is sort of a sign because Teresa's always been anti bringing the kids into everything. So her not correcting him just seems a little bit out of character for her. And so we get the clip of her on the podcast. And again, she doesn't, when he says, I told your daughters to wear tongs on vacation, she's smiling, she's nodding. Some people are saying, like, she knows she effed up. She's in an effed up marriage where she can't do anything about it. Maybe she's scared of him. She doesn't, she's trying not to upset him, which is all fine and dandy, except for the fact that he's conversating about her daughters. And so I think, I don't know. That's really a rough situation there. And why did producers put that out there? That's another thing. They have a whole production crew for their podcast. Did nobody else listen to the entire podcast and say this seems a little peculiar? Maybe we should leave this out. Like, we know that the whole idea of the podcast celebrating their 2-year anniversary was sort of to clean up after the finale, sort of put some good press out there for Louis because they knew he was going to get a lot of backlash if Bravo production put in the clip of Louis talking about Margaret's family. So this was supposed to soften people up again for Louis, and instead it has done the opposite and intensified the negative reaction of fans, viewers, commenters, people across social media who are saying something's wrong here. Something isn't adding up. Like, this seems a little strange, a little peculiar. This is uncomfortable. And like I said, that's really watered down. You can go take a look at the comments yourself. It's I posted on Instagram and TikTok. Both of them, flooded with comments. Tons of them I had to approve to, even have them in the comment section. And again, where is their production company? Why didn't they say this? How many people listened to this and thought this was okay? Like, and put it out there. That's what's peculiar to me. Unless if I don't know. I mean, it's just peculiar. And then once it was posted and people started picking up on it, it started to make its rounds on social media, they went in and actually cut it from the podcast. So it's no longer part of the podcast, but it was already in circulation. So that's why it got picked up. Why my Instagram post and Bambi, it was actually a collab of me and Bambi underscore 4L83 and also TreyFab 2022. It was all three of us had collaborated on the post that Reality Blurb shared, which was the video of Louis Morales talking about the girls. There's some more things circulating online that you probably haven't seen yet. Uh, you know how there was rumors about the SEX group? I'm gonna spell it because I'm on YouTube and I don't want to. I haven't posted these yet, but they're gonna be uploaded, and I think that somebody else has posted them. But do you remember the rumors about him being a what was the word? Like, he was in this X club, and I can't remember. I feel like it was Kim D that talked about it, but we had heard that he was in like sex clubs from somewhere else. I think that we did. Well, they found the club. They found his name as like admit on it. It's a club that it is advertised under the idea of a specific sort of massage. So I looked up this sort of massage, and it's like an esoteric uh sort of, what is the word I'm looking for? An esoteric, like, I don't want to use the word ritual, but that's sort of what it's like a mixture of Hindu and Buddhism, and it's an ancient technique that I guess resurfaced in the 60s and 70s. Um, I know you guys probably don't know what I'm talking about because I had never ever heard of this until I looked it up after I saw his name attached to it. So the X Club is labeled under like group of people that like these certain massages. I want to say it was like TANT. I can't remember. I wish I could look it up right now if but I don't have my computer in front of me. Um, but that's what it's advertised. But it's clear that it's an X club. It has about 150 members. There are some comments, and it looks to be like uh, hookups, if you will. Remember in the first season, Danielle brought a biker gang to a charity for children with cancer and supported their efforts to attack Caroline's children. She also attacked Dina's daughter and Jacqueline's daughter too. Yes, I do remember that. And I think that that's when, after everything happened with Ashley and sort of her inserting herself into that situation and actually physically assaulting Danielle Staub by like pulling her hair, I think that that's when they were like, okay, enough with the children. Once the Mansos were gone, that left the Gorgas with their children, the Giudices with their children. The twins didn't have a lot of children. Dina pulled her daughter. The daughter never really had permission from the dad, which was like the whole debate season one, anyways, was the fact that allegedly Dina had forged her baby daddy's signature on paperwork or something to allow the daughter to film, and he didn't want her filming. That's what really led to Dina not returning back to the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And so obviously, half the children on the cast are the Gorgas, which is Teresa's nieces and nephews, and vice versa. So they're not going to want to bring up each other's children, which is probably the best thing they could have done out of all of this. I do remember that too, but I swore Ashley assaulted Danielle first and she took the men as protector. I agree. I mean, I think that Ashley did too. She pulled her hair. Like she took her out. She didn't have to do that, but she did. And I agree, Alan. It was definitely Ashley on that end there, in my opinion. I actually felt bad for Danielle when I watched that back a couple of times because there's a little bit of like she's a little scared, and I can't blame the lady. Like I probably would be too. And she's like running from them in the country house when she tells Teresa that Teresa's house is in bankruptcy. Remember, she told Teresa that she lived in a house with linoleum floors, and that the linoleum floors were basic. And Teresa's like, I live in a $3 million house now, and she was like, yeah, you do, but it's in bankruptcy. And she chased her through the country club. Danielle took a big beating from that. She did. She did take a big beating. And I can't. Again, like if you've never been in a situation where people as adults are getting physical, you just don't know what people are going to do. You just don't know what people are capable of. Honestly, you don't. And you're in a situation where Teresa was very upset. And that's why a lot of the reason I stand by that production wanted to know what was going on in Teresa and Joe's finances. They did. They wanted to know because there was all these rumors, the rumor mill about Teresa and Joe's finances, about the fact that their home could possibly be in bankruptcy. If you remember, Teresa didn't allow the production company in season one to film their old house. You only see them building the mansion. She does confessionals like outside. I mean, and it wasn't how it is now, obviously, but she did confessionals like outside on a picnic table. It was nice outside. It was summer, and they were finishing up their mansion. And we really didn't see where Teresa came from, right? And when we meet Joe and Melissa, they're already living in their mansion as well. So I think there was some curiosity with production about Joe and Teresa's finances as well, how they afforded what they, did because she wasn't working. I think she was a stay-at-home mom at the time. So they're like, how are you affording all of this? um Anyways, coming back to the current, sorry guys. And I will stand by this. I do not think that Teresa would have ever divorced her first husband, Juicy Joe, if it would have been for the fact that he got deported. I really don't think that she would have. When she came home from prison, even after being gone for a year, they reunited as if they had been together, this whole time. And even whenever he got out of prison after the 3.5 years, he still, she seemed nervous to be like, to tell him that she didn't know if she really wanted to even be with him. If you remember, So, and she used a lot of the reason as being that he was going to be in another country and she worried about infidelity. So she's not, I don't know. Teresa might take her a couple of days to like, I agree with that. It might take her a couple of days to absorb what's happening. But the fact of the matter is, she's not dumb. And I will refer you back to, I think it was the season where we first met Louis. Teresa's having a pool party, and Dolores comes there, and I think Margaret's there. I think it's the pool party where Jennifer Aiden gets into it with Margaret, and Margaret says, Bill had an affair or whatever. Joe Gorga had done press that week. He was either doing a comedy show, something along those lines. Somebody asked how he liked Louis or Joe Giudice. It was something like that. And I want to say Joe Gorga said, "Well, all I'm gonna say is I really miss Joe Giudice, as in like I don't like my new brother-in-law." I don't think they were married yet. I can't remember what they must have been feuding over the pizza ovens. Regardless, Teresa knew that Joe Gorga had said this. But when Dolores got there and she brought it up to Teresa on camera, Teresa played stupid. Like she was like she played completely stupid and it looked authentic. And when they go back into the confessionals, like if we find out that Teresa actually knew that whole time that she wasn't surprised. She just did that because she didn't want to talk about it with Dolores on camera. And I was shocked because she was very it seemed like believable, like very, very believable that she was unaware what Joe Gorga had said about Joe and Louis. And I'll always remember that as that she will play stupid if she has to. It's actually to her advantage to do it because you should never underestimate your opponent, number one. And number two, it does help her in situations where she, doesn't, maybe isn't standing on the right side of history. I think prison was a lot for Trey. I completely agree. But I really liked the Teresa that came home from prison. She was the Teresa before she went to prison. I mean, I will remember her if you go back and watch like I don't know seasons 1 through 5 and skip around a little bit. Teresa's like on a bench outside her mansion talking about how she would never live in a house where somebody has lived before because it's so disgusting. And I'm thinking to myself, like, where did we think that you lived when you first came on the show? We know you didn't build your first house. We know that you were moving from a house. So I don't know if she did that for the cameras, but when she came home from prison, she was very humble. She was very grateful. I think when people, she was away for a year, and obviously amenities that you don't even realize are amenities until you go away to prison. You can't miss them until you're gone, but she still just seemed a lot more, I don't know if I want to say joyful, more at peace, more happy. I mean, I hate to say that, but I really feel like the Teresa Giudice we saw come home from prison is happier than the Teresa we've seen the last couple of years. I know that she would say her brother and sister-in-law caused a lot of stress around the time of her wedding, but that's been 2 years now. I just don't see a happy-go-lucky Teresa like we did when she came home from prison. And I wish that she would have just stayed single and done some therapy because I don't think her and Joe Giudice had like the most healthiest relationship always either. Alan would say, I would say more alert to real life. I agree with you, Alan. Thank you. That's actually a great way to put it. Exactly. She was more alert to real life. But she did seem happier. I mean, she did joke around and laugh and cut up with the other ladies. And I honestly think that there's some people they can't always be themselves around their spouse. I think that Joe Judice had a joking sort of personality, so she could probably be herself a little bit more around him, and she grew up around him. They knew each other their whole lives. But I think around Louis, we just don't maybe see the same Teresa. That's just my opinion. Maybe we just don't see the same Teresa. Um, Also some tea from Melissa's old nose. She dropped a podcast. She was discussing Louis Reellis and his remember when he told I think he was at like a boys' night when he first came on the show, and he told, I think, Joe Gorga that he thought he was going to be alone for the rest of his life until he met Teresa Giudice. And Jackie Goldschneider, apparently, when she had this phone call with Louis and Teresa after they found out that she was the one working with both of the exes, which I completely believe that, because who has said all along that that's how they do things? They get on a phone call, they get James Leonard, they get Teresa, they get Melissa's old nose on a phone call. That's what they always do. They always do like these group phone calls. And I guess, Jackie said it always stuck with her that Louis told Joe Gorga, thought I was going to be alone for the rest of my life, when he really, in actuality, was living with this other girl, Vanessa. So he has two ex-girlfriends named Vanessa. I was actually the very first person to break this story on David, Dolores's ex, Dr. David, dating Louis's ex, Vanessa 2.0. She was like the second Vanessa. She was younger than the first Vanessa. Um, and Louis allegedly was living with her when he met Teresa. And he came home to her and told her how he met Teresa Giudice from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And she just didn't seem very impressed, I guess. But Louis goes on to tell us, though, at a reunion that he ghosted his last ex girlfriend. And then somebody else said that he was like moving at the time. So it's all sort of speculation, but that's the latest on the podcast, is that Jackie Goldschneider had pointed out to Teresa that Louis, had sort of alluded that he was by himself, but he really wasn't. He'd been in like all these relationships with his ex. He had been divorced. There's an ex-girlfriend named Paula. You guys probably have heard that name. I know that some of the stuff we've seen be released, I think even the Warrior video might have been when he was dating Paula, because he only dated Vanessa, the blonde in the mental health that you guys have seen him go back and forth to court with. He only dated her like a year and a half, I want to say. They did not have like a long relationship where they had to like divide properties and assets. Like, they were together for a year and a half, and if you read the court docs, it does not sound like a great year and a half. It sounds like they were drinking and fighting. Drinking and fighting is a lot what it sounds like. Um, I'm trying to think what else has been going around today, on because we're getting a new episode tonight, right? We're getting the watch party. What are you guys' thoughts on the watch party? Do you think that we're going to see anything go down? I don't think that we will. We do know that production cut the scene of Danielle throwing the pitcher at Jennifer Aiden, which a lot of people were kind of shocked that that was pulled. My guess is they pulled it for Danielle to sort of recuperate um, her image, because they want to bring her back. If you ask, in my opinion, they want to at least have the option to bring her back. And if they aired that and the audience reacted, in favor of Jennifer Aiden, which I don't think is going to happen, because there's not a lot of Jennifer Aiden fans out there these days. They want to be able to bring her back. So they didn't want to risk it. Maybe they didn't want to hear about how terrible. I don't know what their thoughts were, but we weren't even going to get a watch party until somebody leaked the fact that we weren't getting a reunion, and then we got a watch party. So uh, I don't know what Bravo's doing. Just to put it in context for you guys, they filmed for 2 months. 60 days is how long they filmed. That's not enough time to make a season. It's just not. And they didn't have any major events. There were no major events. There was the same old, the same old baseball party. It was the baseball party, pool parties at the shore. It's the same old, same old. Production puts no money into them. They didn't even take a cash trip. When their house burned down, they should have taken a cash trip somewhere else. You live next to New York City. Get it together. That to me is like, either they don't care about the franchise, either they knew they were gonna give it the boot, reboot it, not boot it, whatever they're gonna do prior to them even filming this season. And I think that's why they didn't put any money in it. Alan, wait, no reunion? What no Yeah, there's no reunion. We found out well, it was leaked actually by a housewife, and production I think wanted to find out who the leak. They were not happy about all of the leaks, let's say. But it was leaked that there wasn't going to be a reunion. And so then Andy did have to make a statement where he said that the finale was going to it was going to be enough for the housewives' appetite, that we were going to get a little bit of everything, and that he didn't really feel like a reunion would be even something that we, because there was going to be no resolution, I think was his point. Like, Bravo loves resolution. They love conflict and then resolution. But if there's no resolution, they weren't going to do a reunion. I don't know. As I said before, I don't think they are super happy with this franchise before they even started filming. When was it? I'm trying to think, was it last year? Yeah, because they put them on pause last year. And I know that I mentioned to you guys, if you don't film, you don't get a paycheck. So I felt like in my heart of hearts, they were starving them out. They were trying to starve Teresa and Melissa out to like form a resolution. I feel like they were even going to try to bring some sort of resolution when they planned the girls' trip. Remember, that was Dolores's sort of plan, was a resolution, and it didn't seem like she was gun ho about the resolution, so it must have been coming from producers. And once it came close to the time for the girls' trip and the house caught on fire, and production knew that Teresa and Melissa were just like not having it. They haven't filmed together all season. There's no, hope of them reconciling. They just said, well, I guess there's no hope in having a girls trip then. And they just didn't. And I think that Teresa and Melissa really did, Teresa more so than Melissa, because I do think that Melissa probably would have been more open to filming with Teresa than Teresa seemed to be open to filming to her. Just because I think that, I don't know, the way that Joe talked about Teresa in last week's episode, it felt like he felt bad. Like, he felt bad for his sister, and he's allowed to feel bad, but we haven't seen that in a long time. It's like the anger has worn off, because we know that when we grieve, and if you stop speaking to a loved one, you have some stages of grief. It's like the anger is like worn off, and now the sadness is starting to set in. And even the conversation that Teresa had with Louis, um she seemed sad. She seemed sad, and she seemed like, I don't know, if you got them in a room together, just the three of them, if they could make something happen, or even if it was just Joe and Teresa find some resolution. I think that Melissa would fall in line with whatever her husband wants. I think that she, if he said, I want to make up with her, then Melissa would go with that, and maybe it wouldn't be sincere, but would it be better than this? Would you have a job? I mean, I'm just saying, like, these are real consequences of your actions, and Teresa's got like $3-4 million on the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could keep your $3-4 million and get along with your brother. Would it be that terrible? I mean, I'm just saying. Kind of blowing it here. I wish Trey and Melissa really had a resolution, get their relationship much better back and forth. Is too low for these super grown ass people. It's too stupid. I agree with you. I think that the exposure of everything coming out with John Fuda, I'm sure has been um I don't even know what the word is. Like, I don't want to say eye-opening, because I know that they all got dirty. All of the housewives have gotten dirty. They've all been in the trash. They've all done those sort of things on social media. But when Louis came along, he amplified it. It was like what the ladies do times 10. It was dirtier than dirty, right? And so now it's like all of that comes out. It kind of makes you rethink a lot of things, because now you know that this was strategic, that Teresa and Louis and her attorney and Jennifer, made sure that this conversation between Brittany, who's Louis' ex and a blogger, was posted the day of the party, of Jen Fessler's party, so that they could talk about it in the car and talk about it at the party. And it's just strategic. And I think that it probably is going to be difficult for the same cast to reconcile. I think that a reconciliation between Melissa and Teresa is necessary if you're going to keep them on the show and try to keep New Jersey going. I think it's possible. I think that if Bravo, if they were smart about it, right? Like, what is something they could do to try to, I think they should do like a boot camp almost. Um, that's what I thought they should have done. They should have put together some sort of like like 1 week is a family boot camp with just siblings, right? And then the next week's like family boot camp with your spouse and your siblings. So the first week's Teresa and Joe Gorga, right? Then the second week would be Teresa and Joe with their spouses. I just think they had an opportunity to do something a little different here. And Bravo is they don't like change over there either. I feel like it's like some stuffy old men sometimes. And they're like, no, we will not have any change, even if it's a good change. No change for us. Um, I haven't spoken to one of my siblings in 6 years, and I can definitely agree. Oh, Alan, I'm sorry to hear that. Um, there should be a side season of just Joe and Teresa on a road trip. Joanne, that would be a great idea. I love that idea. Sorry to hear that, Alan. Send an apology. I know it's tough when you don't talk to spouses or family, and uh, I don't. Is it better to fight and at least speak, or to just not at all? A lot of times, I don't think it's always the sibling or the family member as much as it is a spouse, because spouses change everything. Nobody prepares you for that when you're like young children and adults that like, hey, one day, your brother might get married and he might have a wife that doesn't like you. How are we going to handle that? I'm just saying, like, it's tough because there's like different situations where men will put their foot down if they have a female that's causing conflict within their family, right? We know that. And then you can have a female that will cause conflict behind the scenes and then wash her hands and show up to dinner with her hands clean. Um, it's like you'll have a sibling and they'll get married and you'll never get to have a conversation with them by themselves ever again. It'll just always be them and their spouse and you. So it's a tough dynamic, I think, but I think a road trip, I think a boot camp, I know that they did that in like season 3 or 4 when they all went to that mansion. But we had Kathy Walkeely and Rosie and all of those people intertwined as well. And again, I think if we could just strip it down to Joe and Teresa for a certain amount of time, no spouses, no press, no nothing, and see what happens. And I think that I don't know. I think that that could be like potentially. I mean, obviously Teresa doesn't want to do that. Joe doesn't want to do that. But if they starve them out, like I said, Teresa's got $3, $4 million on the line. We don't know what Louis makes. Louis tells us he makes us billions of dollars. If we listen to him, we would think she wouldn't owe any money. We would think she wouldn't need to buy knockoffs, right? Like, I'm sorry, but the man drove up in a Bentley and did a video like where he says he makes $1 million a day or some shit. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't add up. So I just if you axed him out of the picture, Teresa alone, that's her like, not to mention what kind of position is this going to put her in her marriage? Because her and Louis only know a marriage where she is the queen and she is the reality star and she is the moment and she is the paycheck and she is the travel, right? And so what happens when she's looking at him now like, okay, we've kept our finances separate. Now we're married, but I'm not making what I used to. So, she would think she probably would have no money issues. She'd probably go to him with her hand open, like, okay, you said you're going to take care of me now. Where's it at? What are we doing? Where are we? I mean, Andy Cohen said his damn self. He didn't even think she was going to return. He thought she was going to get married and she was not going to return, that it was going to be her last season because people thought Louis had money. Why would you go on a reality show and fight with your brother if you didn't have to? If you had so many millions that it didn't matter, why would you work? Why would you go on a TV show and fight with your family? I understand she likes fame. I mean, she's been in the spotlight for 10 years, but I'm just saying, like, she could have found something different. Shit, she could make her own production company. She could do her own, if she had if he's making that kind of money, they could make their own production company, produce their own things. She wouldn't have to fall under, the cookie cutter of Bravo. But we don't see any of those things. We did see a, cooking show, which was very professionally done. It was nice, but I think that it was a lot of money to do that once a week. And unfortunately, with YouTube, you got to put out a lot. If you want to make money off content, you got to put out content. One cooking video a week isn't going to probably cover production costs. It's just not. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I think she could go to another network. I think that's an option. But I think if she shops networks, that's going to make Bravo jealous. Because Bravo makes money off of Teresa in the aspect that all the, other stuff that she does, they're making a piece of that. Um, I don't know. What do you guys think's next for Teresa? Is it time for her to have a spinoff? Some people say, if she was an OG, she would have already had a spinoff. She had the special, she had the prison special, and she had the wedding special, but she has the four daughters at home. It seems like it would be an easy production, an easy thing to just separate her and Louis and the girls and do their own. I mean, I can think that they would have enough um content. It's almost like the Kardashians, right? Let's see here. I'm reading through some of the comments. Um, but yeah, guys, that's pretty much where we're at. We're getting the episode tonight. I don't think anything too crazy is gonna happen. Um, you have to remember, I want you guys to remember this. The ladies are coming back and filming the finale. At this point now, they know everything. They know everything with Jackie. They know everything with Vanessa, and they also know everything that Teresa and Jennifer have been up to as it pertains to the bloggers. They didn't know any of that when they were filming. They wrapped up filming October 30th. Now they just filmed the reunion a month ago after all this stuff come out. Ellen says, I think she will stick it out until the show ends. Her paychecks are too good to walk away. Imagine making all that money to film for 60 days. Exactly. I completely agree with you. I don't think she'll walk away. I think that if something were to happen, she would probably go on to another network, in my opinion, if Bravo decided to cut ties. Which again, I don't think Bravo. I've always said they're gonna like squeeze every last penny out of her that they can. I think they'll just do something separate, which would be the most um, realistic thing to do. And they probably should have done it, like I said, for this season. They should have already done this, had this in the works, had something lined up to have her venture off onto her own show, and see what happens. If it flops, it flops. Um, because here's the thing, Teresa and Louis are supposed to all be all about love and happy vibes, and Teresa wants to empower women and then give her own show. Then she should have plenty of content for her own show because she's not gonna have anyone to fight with on there because it's her show. Let's see what Teresa's been telling us has been her this whole time, that the show has made her the villain, that she isn't like that, that people get the wrong impression. Well, okay, then give her her own show. She should have no problem making it a hit with all of her good vibes and happiness and love and somebody pointed out that Louis was wearing a shirt that said transcend. Um when he was talking poorly about Margaret's son, and people were just laughing because transcends like Christ consciousness and Buddha and Buddhism and like love and kindness and positive frequency and such. And meanwhile, he's like, "But I wish ill on these people." Crazy. All right, guys. Well, I just wanted to hop on. I miss all of you so much on my YouTube. I'm gonna start doing lives and getting some videos out for you guys. I know I've been kind of neglectful and I'm sorry. I miss my YouTubers so much. I really do. I miss you guys a lot. It's a different vibe over here on YouTube. It's just, I don't know. You guys are kind of more my people and my tribe over here. But sometimes it's difficult to it's a little easier to do a TikTok video and put everything into like a couple of minutes versus YouTube. But I haven't forgot any of you. I love all of you. I miss you. And I'm going to be coming live soon. So make sure you guys have your alerts on. Hit the like and follow button. We'll chat soon. Bye, guys.